Hey, how's it going? This is DJ Beaver, and I am here to give you my Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens movie review. It's going to be a non-spoiler review at the beginning, and then a spoiler review at the end. I will give you ample time to shut this off whenever the spoilers come. But for right now, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, this is my quick non-spoiler review of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I give this movie an 8 out of 10. Now, I don't do a 5-star rating system. I do a 10-star rating system. I go into a movie at a 5. If you have a movie that somebody paid money for to produce and you actually have it at the theaters, especially in a small town like I live, then you deserve a 5 to begin with. It's like even sum. And as the movie progresses, it goes up, it goes down. Sometimes all it takes is one sentence for me to just knock you down from a 7 to a 6. Like, that was stupid. Or just one moment, one scene where it's like, wow, it elevated that movie a complete star and a half up. This movie, walked out of there, and I've only seen it once, 8 out of 10. And where does that rank amongst the other Star Wars movies? Well, my favorite was The Empire Strikes Back, and I give The Empire Strikes Back a 9 out of 10. And I also give Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope, 9 out of 10. It fluctuates. Sometimes I'll put a 10 out of 10 because it's a classic. When you become a classic, then you get kudos for that. That takes longevity. That's like 20 years at least being out there before there's some of my all-time favorite movies I only give a 7 out of 10. But it's really based on production value, script, acting, music, direction, how fun the movie was. And Return of the Jedi, I also give an 8 out of 10, but it's more like a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. It's a great movie. The prequels pale in comparison. I don't think I liked The Phantom Menace enough maybe to give it a 6 of 10 because it was different. It wasn't the same thing. I was fine with it. Let's do it. Let's do this thing. A lot of people hate The Phantom Menace. Of course, Attack of the Clones was the worst. I can't see me giving that more than a 4 out of 10, and maybe even lower than that. Maybe a 3 out of 10. Revenge of the Sith, I want to give it a 7 sometimes, but it's a 6 to a 7 out of 10. Because it did a lot of things that I wanted. It just didn't do it well. And George Lucas, to me, in Return of the Jedi, he was paling in comparison to the original, the first two. And he really dropped the ball with the prequels. Not only did he drop the ball, but it was picked up by the other team and returned for a touchdown. Just standing there shaking his head like, oh, no, that didn't happen. They didn't just score on me. I refuse to believe that. I still think we won the game. I mean, that's how he is. I don't put him on a pedestal like a lot of people do. And I'm not going to give him credit because I love the Star Wars universe. I'm not going to give him credit where credit is undeserved. And Return of the Jedi has a lot of undeserved credit going towards it because, let's face it, the Ewoks, there could have been so much more. When you see this movie, The Force Awakens, there is a lot more and no Ewoks. Just a lot more story. The J.J. Abrams, the director, and while I'm at the 8 out of 10, it is a solid 8 out of 10. It is above Return of the Jedi in my mind. It's my third favorite Star Wars movie. It returns to the adventure that was the original trilogy. The prequels sleptwalk through 3 movies. Even the action sequences were boring because I wasn't invested in any of it. It was just 10 hours of sitting and talking, walking and talking, fighting and talking. Just not a Star Wars movie. The first three, it was the adventure, going on these adventures with Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. They get separated. They're on their own little adventures, and you're equally interested in both adventures. This movie had a lot of adventures, different characters doing different things, and you were invested. When they broke away to the First Order, the Empire is the First Order now, when they broke away and you started hanging out with them for a minute, you weren't bored. You didn't say, oh, hurry up and get back to the other story. When you were at the other story, you weren't, oh man, hurry up and get back. I want to see what Kylo Ren's doing. No, you were interested in every character. Every character was great. Every new character that was introduced was very well acted, very good, cool characters that in episode 8, and I'm not going to spoil it for who survives at this point to make it to episode 8, but you're going to be jumping out of your seat, excited to see the character on the screen. And I would venture to say, especially the new characters. You're going to be so excited to see that new character show up again when they do show up in episode 8. That and that is the kind of thing that the original Star Wars brought when you met Luke, Leia, and Han. The next time you saw them in Empire Strikes Back, it was like, yeah, there's my boy. Yeah, there's my girl. Yeah, there's my Wookiee. It's the same thing with these new characters. You're really interested in their plight, what they were doing, how they fit in the story. So my overall review for Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, 8 out of 10 stars. Yes, it belongs in the Star Wars universe. The Star Wars universe is back. You are invested. You can't wait for the next one to come out. It belongs with the original trilogy. To me, in my opinion, it is better than Return of the Jedi because it has no Ewoks, and 100% better than the prequels because it has no Jar Jar Binks. I will have to go back and watch the movie again because supposedly you could see Jar Jar Binks like skeletal remains somewheres in the sand or the desert or floating in space or somewheres. J.J. Abrams said that you would be able to see the bones of Jar Jar Binks somewheres, and there was just too much going on to see that in the first viewing. Maybe after the 5th viewing, I could pan around and look for Easter eggs. But in the meantime, we're going to move on to my Star Wars spoiler review. Now, we're 7.5 minutes into this thing. Right now, if you have not seen Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, you need to shut this off. Bookmark it, save it, put it in your favorites, put it in watch later. Then once you see the movie, come back and listen to this and see if you agree with me. See if you agree with what I like, what I didn't like, what I think or thought should have happened, what I think should have happened, and what I hope will be resolved in episode 8 as maybe things that you were left hanging. So, without further ado, take off this video and leave because the remainder of it will be full of spoilers, and I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen the movie. But yeah, this is going to be some spoilers. So here we go with my spoiler review. And the first thing I want to say about spoilers and about the spoiler reviews that I have seen on YouTube, a lot of people complaining that this movie was a carbon copy of Star Wars. Episode 4, A New Hope. A lot of the same plot points. First of all, too many people saying it's the same story. It is not the same story. The plot point, the ultimate battle at the end. Look, you saw the trailers for this movie, and you saw the Starkiller base. You saw them flying towards a trench. You saw an investment in this little robot. Now, BB-8, he's not carrying information on how to defeat Starkiller Base, but he has information inside him that the First Order wants to get their hands on. And, oh, that's too similar. The same thing happened with R2-D2. Look, like I said, Star Wars, it's all about the adventure. It's not... my biggest problem with Return of the Jedi was that we get another Death Star, we got to do the same thing, and it's so not invested in, so that's why it gets knocked down. This one doesn't get knocked down for that reason, because J.J. Abrams was trying to bring us back to the original thing, and, you know, they brought Lawrence Kasdan in. Do I think they slept through the plot points? Yes. Definitely. Man, I would have never allowed a Star Killer base to begin with. It was totally sleepwalking through the plot. What I went in there for was not hoping that, gosh, I hope that didn't look like it did in the trailer, because it's exactly what it was. All right, in Act 3 was going and destroying the Star Killer base, and they had to take down the shield, which was just like in Return of the Jedi when they went to the moon of Endor to take down the shield. It's the exact same thing. So be it. Didn't look the same. Han and Chewie and Finn and Rey were the ones that went to take the shield down. No, Rey wasn't. No, they went to save Rey. Right, Rey was already there. And they went to take the shield down. Priority number one was taking the shield down. Han, Chewie, and Finn do that. I'm not complaining at all about the plot points. Those are nitpicking plot points. It doesn't get an 8 out of 10 because of that. It was an adventure. We were in the Star Wars world. There wasn't a sleepy moment in it. I will tell you this: the movie's 2.5 hours. The movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes long. I thought we were there for 3 hours. That should say something about, wow, that was a long movie. No, it was just so much going on, and you slow your brain down and everything sink in. It felt like I was there longer without feeling like my butt was hurting. You know, you got that much substance in 2 hours and 10 minutes. It really felt like a 3-hour movie. It was only 2 hours and 10 minutes. Some may say that's a good thing. Some may say it's not. I was 100% invested in all the characters. I was fine with it. I thought the very end scene that they didn't have to show us, I think it was just for the sake of showing us. And that was, of course, seeing Luke Skywalker. This is a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie, then maybe I should explain it to you, but you're ruining it for yourself. But yeah, Luke, we don't see Luke till the very end. He doesn't say a word. He turns around, looks at the camera, and poof, it's over with. But I'm not going to get into explaining the movie because I'm assuming you've all seen the movie because you're still listening. My problems with the movie, and they're minute. There are little things in the movie that I think maybe could have been done a little differently or could have been handled better. And number one, maybe not number one, but there's three things. The performance of Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia, I don't think she brought it. She didn't bring it. There were scenes with her and Han. You know, my favorite thing that Lawrence Kasdan infused in Empire Strikes Back was their interaction and the fact that they haven't been around each other in upwards of years, who knows how many years. And they see each other. It was a great moment when they first see each other again. C-3PO popping his head in there and interrupting that moment was brilliant. But she didn't bring it. I didn't feel the chemistry, maybe because so much had gone on in their lives that they had put a wall between them. But then you get this little joke of, what have you done for me lately? And don't mention the Death Star. You know, don't mention what you did in Star Wars, because that's your go-to every time, you know. So there was still playfulness between the two characters. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, that's it should have been. That's why, because they weren't around each other for so long. It's like, no, because you see, they still had that. And it could have been, there could have been more of it. They should have had a moment alone in a room talking to each other. And she didn't bring it. And that is why I think she will be the one to die next in episode 8. I think they're going to kill her off, and it'll have gravitas with us, because I mean, what's more than what they did in this movie, and that was killing Han Solo. Now, it was projected. The moment you saw it, a widescreen, Han Solo and his son, Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, and they meet up in the middle of this walkway, and it's like, okay, this is where Han dies. I mean, it was projected really, really poorly. It felt like, well, maybe he'll turn him, and then whenever he does it, it's like, okay, that was supposed to happen. We all saw it. We all knew it outside of the movies, because Harrison Ford wanted to his character to die. He thought he was kind of an idiot, and he loved this movie so much and went on the whole tour. He went the whole 9 yards, did all the talk shows, and it kind of was, the writing was on the wall. I thought, this is my problem with it, because it was fine. I didn't have a big problem with it. There's still a 1% chance that he could be alive if he fell off that walkway into a vat of carbonite and froze immediately, and his body's still alive. And then with technology the way it is, maybe they could sew him up or something. He was still, his eyes, yeah, he's dead. 99% chance he's dead. But Leia feels it. General Leia, she feels it at that moment. And she maybe takes a sidestep and sits down, and that's it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because you just projected this death to where I didn't even well up or want to cry when it happened. Afterwards, I wanted to cry because we're not going to get Han Solo again. But you dropped the ball there by not having me just well up in tears. But then when you showed Leia, and I had watery eyes when I saw Leia, and then she just sits down like she accepted it. And to me, and this is the way I would have done it, I mean, let her sit down, let her do what she did, but then show C-3PO turn around and say, oh, Princess, I mean, General Leia, did you... And then zoom in on her and just see tears falling down her face, and everyone in the audience would have been crying with her. But there was nothing, not a Visine drop in her eye, not a moment of, I've just lost the man, the love of my life. And that to me was a major dropping the ball. And I will use that sports analogy throughout this review. They dropped the ball right there. And she dropped the ball because she could have brought so much. And if you've been known as an actress, as a person who's taken painkillers and you're still on them, well, thanks a lot for bringing them to the big screen, because you really did. Now, speaking of C-3PO, what an annoying robot this thing has been throughout the 6 movies and now 7. It's funny. It's especially funny because it drives Han crazy, because it drives me crazy. It drives Han crazy, turns him off in Empire Strikes Back. That was so funny. Turn around, Wookiee. I can't see when Han's getting put in carbonite. But, and then when he first shows up in The Force Awakens, it is equally as funny. But then, and this is one of those one-line sentences in the movie that was like, are you kidding me? And I believe it was when the shields go down on the Starkiller base, and C-3PO says, thank the Maker. Thank the Maker? Really? I mean, at that point, I wanted to walk up to every writer in this movie, whichever one of you wrote that line, and just slap them all in the face for allowing it to be in there. Thank the Maker. First of all, if you're going to say thank the Maker, then say thank God. And if you're not going to say thank God because you're a robot, well, then your maker is Anakin Skywalker. So you might as well just say, oh, thank the Vader. Thank Darth Vader. Thank the Anakin. Thank the Maker? No. Oh, no. It was, once again, drop the ball. You could have said, oh, the shields are down. I knew Han could do it. I never doubted him for a second. You know, repeat one of his old lines. No. Oh, R2, I wish you were here to see it. You know, because for those of you who didn't see the movie, R2-D2 is zoned out the entire movie. He is on a mission. He has been gone for a while. He's just sitting there, and he hadn't turned on, and no one knows what's wrong with him. And the whole time, to me, he's compiling information, he's finding information, he's gathering all this information to find Luke, which is what the missing piece of that map was in BB-8. That was the whole point of the dark side, the First Order trying to capture that one piece of information because they wanted to find Luke Skywalker. Now Kylo Ren was trained by Luke Skywalker, and then he got seduced by Snoke and took all the Jedis that were there and they left, or, you know, some of them killed the rest, however that went down, and then Luke went into hiding. You know, it's like, I just don't get why now he wants Luke, because because there's an awakening in the Force. They realize, oh, I shouldn't have left him there. I should have killed him when I decided to be bad. Why did you walk away? Why didn't you kill him then? We know Kylo Ren is conflicted. Great job, I believe, you know, differentiating between this villain and Darth Vader. I think Kylo Ren, from the get-go, we know that he's conflicted. And then we find out he's Han Solo's son. And then we find out that, that you actually believe that he might come back to the good side, and then he doesn't. You find out he's not as strong. He's stronger than Darth Vader. He stopped a bullet in midair. He stopped a laser in midair and held it the whole time he's doing other things, and he's holding it. I never seen Darth Vader do that. But, yeah, you know, he sensed when Han Solo landed on the planet, but then when Han Solo was in the next room, he didn't sense him right behind him. You know, so maybe that's a turn on, turn off kind of thing, that if you're focused on one thing, you can't pay attention to another. But like I said, he held a laser in the air the whole time he was in a conversation with somebody. But anyway, a little problem with that. Who is Rey? Who is Rey? She's got Force abilities that go well beyond even Anakin Skywalker. I mean, and I believe this isn't said in the movie, but I believe that she was trained by a very strong Jedi, whether it was Luke Skywalker or she was trained by someone, and her mind was force wiped to where she forgot. She wasn't supposed to know where Luke was, who Luke was. She wasn't supposed to live with this memory. When Luke decided, we got to get away, I want to hide my daughter, if that's the case, and force wiped her mind, but didn't force wipe her powers, didn't force wipe her abilities, because when they come roaring back, this is like the long kiss goodnight with Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, all of a sudden, she's doing roundhouse kicks and dancing with the lightsaber and beating Kylo Ren, who's been training his whole life. Even after Luke trained him, he was still working on his abilities, and she was a formidable match for him, stronger than him, because they were both going for Luke Skywalker's lightsaber in the snow, and it zips right past him into her hand. And that just shows you how powerful she is, or the midichlorians, which they never mentioned in the movie, but if that is such the case, they are flowing in her like Snoqualmie Falls. Kylo probably has to tap into his, because Han Solo is not filled with midichlorians, and Leia is not exactly steeping with midichlorians as well. Luke got the better genes in that. I mean, that's like twins. They're like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. I mean, she felt when Han Solo died. She knew where Luke Skywalker was in Return of the Jedi and didn't understand it, and probably never cared to understand it. And that was disappointing to me, that we never saw her do one Jedi trick. We never saw her reach over and grab your cup of coffee and have it fly across the room into your hand. I mean, we didn't see that. We didn't see her do any of that. And I'm hoping in this movie that we could see that she packs a little wallop before, you know, Kylo Ren kills her, which is what I'm assuming will happen in Episode 8. But anyway, Rey decides to use the Jedi mind trick like Obi-Wan did in Star Wars, the first one, and Episode 4. And the stormtrooper played by Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig was in the movie. He was the stormtrooper that is watching her when she is tied up to the chair. And she says, you will unfasten these restraints and leave the room. And he says, yeah, how about I tighten them up? And then she says it again, and then he unstraps them, and he leaves the room. She's like, and drop your weapon. And he goes, and I'm going to drop my weapon. And he drops his weapon. This movie was funny. But it's like, boom, all of a sudden, that to me was kind of like, really? Because, I mean, really? But like I said, I went with that. I didn't have a problem with it. I was amazed when she first touches Luke's The fact that she found Luke's lightsaber in only the way Star Wars can do it, that you just kind of stumble upon it. That if she was meant to find it, and it almost held secrets, like maybe Luke said, if you ever touch this thing again, everything will come flooding back, because she had memories, flashbacks, maybe even visions of the future, and it was too much for her to handle, and which I didn't care for her running off into the forest just to come running back or to get captured. It's just again sleepwalking through the script. But I didn't knock it. I wasn't going to knock any stars off of it because of that. It's all interesting to me. It's like a new side of the Force, and when she decided to embrace it, it came to her. The Force, she awoke herself to the Force, and the Force came flooding back into her. And I mean, she knew languages. She knew Wookiee. She knew how to fly. I think even when she was flying the Millennium Falcon, he said, "How are you doing this?" And she said, "I don't know." I think that she probably had some training. Even if it wasn't a Jedi Master that was training her, she probably had training. Being a scavenger, she probably taught herself. She probably read a book. I'd be amazed down here in South Louisiana if somebody spoke 5 languages. Be like, where'd you learn that? Wow, you actually paid attention. But they teach stuff like that down here. But she knew it. Yeah, that wasn't. I'm not thinking, oh, she's the Force. She's got the Force. She's a Jedi. She could speak all these languages. No, she probably picked up a book. She never came off as a dumb character, that's for sure. And she will probably end up being the most powerful Jedi in the universe. Now, who is she? Is she Luke's kid? Is she? Because Han and Leia talk about Ben Solo, but they never mention that they had a daughter. And I don't think that, I'm almost positive that she can't be Kylo's sister. I'm not saying it 100% that it's definitely not. They might have even agreed not to discuss it. Luke might have said, please don't ever mention this again. Luke might have hid the fact that he had a daughter to them. We don't know. And that's one of the questions coming that I'm looking forward to in episode 8 is who exactly is she? And if they say, oh, by the way, Kylo Ren says you're my sister, then I'll be fine with it. I'm definitely not going to cry about it, because sister's going to kick his butt. Now, Finn, and this is another problem I had. I think it's easily fixable, but this is something I needed to know. Finn was a stormtrooper. He was taken, not from birth, but taken from his parents and trained to be a soldier. And all he knew his whole life was being a stormtrooper until he actually had to get down and start, kill all these people. And he's like, wait, I can't do this. And then he defects. And then he's full of emotion. John Boyega's portrayal of Finn was very full of emotions. These are emotions where I'm like, okay, you're not a 6-year-old that all of a sudden is expressing emotions that you haven't had. I mean, you've had to have had a TV or a book to read, or maybe I'm not understanding. I'm not understanding it, because if you're training soldiers, you would also numb their minds to certain things. I mean, he was feeling love. He was feeling happiness. These are certain things that a child taken and raised to be a soldier, they wouldn't have had the door open for them to experience free will. And free will is what this guy had that made him defect. They even mention it in the movie that it's possible maybe we should not use humans as our stormtroopers and go back to using clones. One of the only references to the prequels. And it's understandable unless you made sure they lived a sheltered life. Now, stick with me on this, because Phasma, who is the lead stormtrooper, who was very underused, and we're probably going to see a lot more of her. She's going to be the Boba Fett of the series, because she's going to come back with some kind of vengeance. She was discarded of pretty easily. And actually, she was in a trash compactor, and that whole planet exploded. So they didn't say, let's go pick up Phasma and get out of here. They said, let's go pick up Kylo Ren, finish his training and get that. Let's go pick him up and get the hell out of here and finish his training. And they didn't say, oh, by the way, let's stop by that trash can and pick up Phasma, where who knew that she was even in there? So just like Boba Fett in the pit on Return of the Jedi, she managed to get out of there herself. I wouldn't be surprised if she had a jetpack under that cape. But what I think they should have done, because she saw Finn, and she reprimanded him at the beginning for not firing upon the bad guys. I mean the village, and she said, "Let's take you back for retraining or whatever." She gave him a course of events to do, like slap on the wrist type of thing, because you made a boo-boo, and then lets him go on his free will again, and he ends up escaping. He grabs Poe and ends up escaping with Poe. It's a major plot point. But I think maybe there should have been some kind of... It felt to me like maybe there was a relationship between the two. And then when Finn sees her later and he's in your face, who's the master now? Who's the boss now? That would have been the perfect time to take her helmet off so we could see it's Gwendolyn Christie. Because you're left in this movie like, well, we have to see this character later because all we know is it was a female. Gwendolyn Christie, you don't need her. You could have used Julie Kavner. James Earl Jones, a female James Earl Jones, and just had a stunt double in the suit. So the fact that she used her means we have to see her face sooner or later. I think that would have been the perfect time for Finn to take her helmet off in her face, where you could see her face and go, who's the man now? And then maybe have her say something like, yeah, I guess I shouldn't have let you enjoy those fruits of the spoils that I got being the star stormtrooper. You know, you get perks as you climb the ladder, you get perks. And I could see where she would be allowed to read a book or watch TV or mingle, fornicate. And maybe her fornicating with him would have been, oops, I actually opened the door to this one stormtrooper that allows this kind of free will, and then he ended up making an executive decision on his own to get the hell out of here. So, anyway, that's just me dreaming, and maybe we'll hear more about it in the future. But she's definitely going to be the Boba Fett of the trilogy. She wasn't used that much in this movie, and we should see more of her in future movies. Now, let's see. Those were my complaints, and we're at 30 minutes now, so I hadn't really been complaining a lot, or I guess I have been complaining a lot. I was complaining about hearing a lot of complaints in all the other spoiler reviews, and I guess that's really what happens is you point out your flaws, and like I said, they weren't major flaws. I'm a little disappointed in the script. The overall script gets an 8 out of 10 for me, too, because there were more laughs in this movie than in any of the other ones. Han Solo brought the laughs in the other ones, and a lot of the characters brought laughs in this one. So it was well done in that regard, but I think on paper, Han Solo's death looked a lot better, and visually speaking, it did look good, but the way it played out, it was telegraphed. Somebody on set should have seen that Carrie Fisher wasn't bringing it and should have pulled her aside. And if an actor or two on the set said Daisy Ridley was wooden and she gave a great performance, someone had to pull her aside on day 2 or 3 of filming and said, hey, Daisy, you need to bring it a little more because you're wooden. Well, then you can't let a character like Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher's portrayal of Princess Leia, keep going by this numbingly lame. And I love her. I loved her in When Harry Met Sally. She had more depth in that movie, or she brought it, I should say, more in that movie. And so, you know, it's not a knock on female action heroes, but she did it to herself. It's a knock on the character. The character didn't look like she was going through she was going through the motions. She was a general now, and she leads this, but in the end, she wasn't getting her hands dirty, and really not learning the Force, not using the Force, telling Han when he comes back, hey, maybe we can still save our son. Well, Han left. Han left to go back to doing what he did best, which was smuggling, and pretty much he gave up on his son. You both did. You weren't trying to bring him back. So, anyway, like I said, I don't have problems with the storyline. I have problems with her performance. What I would like to see in future movies to come, or what I think I'll see. Actually, I already said, I think we're going to see General Leia Organa meet her demise. And that will fuel Luke Skywalker's emotions. Because apparently he didn't sense that Han died, but maybe he was so far on the other side of the universe that he doesn't feel anything. That's why he went over there, was to hide from everyone. So he probably in the same sense. To me, it looked like when he turned around at the end, his eyes were really red. And it looked like he had been crying. Of course, when they showed him again, after they switched over and showed Rey and then showed him again, his eyes weren't that red. So I'm thinking they were different days, and maybe he was drunk or something. I don't know, the actor, not Luke. But anyway, from the moment she stepped on the island, he probably read her mind, knew who she was. All these feelings came flooding back. So I thought it was powerful, and I could be wrong. I thought it was powerful when Luke Skywalker turned around and looked at her, because I think he already knew everything that we just saw at that moment. Because it did take a while for her to climb to the top of the mountain with her spear. Her I forget what they call it. She carries this thing with her through the whole movie. It's got to have some kind of significance. And we just saw that she could use it really well, but I think it's going to have more significance in future movies. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Luke Skywalker training her. We're definitely should see flashbacks to what happened between Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, and Luke Skywalker. What that whole thing, and really all you have to do is shave Luke's face, because it didn't take place that far. They didn't really say Kylo Ren jilted Luke, and Luke's been gone for years. I'll have to go back and watch the movie. Maybe they did. It just at the beginning crawl of the movie, it said Luke Skywalker has vanished, and everybody's looking for him. So Kylo Ren, I don't really know how long he's been running around with the First Empire or the First Order. We do know that Snoke seduced him. So we're going to get to see a little more of Snoke and in flashbacks. George Lucas said he would never do flashbacks, and we heard of flashback scenes in the first 6 Star Wars movies, but we never saw flashbacks. George Lucas didn't believe in them, and we had a flashback in this one. So luckily and thankfully, this movie actually could spend a very good amount of time flashing back to events that were only spoken about. Now, whether or not we'll flash back and see Han Solo is a different story. I don't think he's ever coming back. Harrison Ford, that is. But we'll definitely see Han Solo in a Solo movie. Okay, love triangle. Let's go with the love triangle. Finn, Rey, and Poe. Hopefully we'll have another love triangle in this thing. And to me, the Finn and Rey, they're awesome. Regardless of whether you like interracial, whatever, Finn and Rey seems like the couple that would get together because of the love that was there. Finn went back for Rey. BB-8 kept telling Rey that Finn was the one making these emotional decisions that you could tell attracted Rey to him, at least in an emotional sense, maybe not physical, but Poe didn't really get to interact with Rey that much. Poe and Finn, you could tell they're going to be best friends. And so maybe we'll get to see Poe and Rey spend time together. Maybe we'll get a little love triangle going on there. I also think Chewie needs to fall in love. I don't follow the canon. I don't read the comic books. I don't read the books. I don't even know if we saw Chewie in the prequels with a wife and kids. I forget if we did or not, because Chewie's been with Han this whole time. And Maz Kanata, think that's how you say her last name. She was inquiring about Chewie because she thought he was a hunk. And maybe Chewie hooks up with her and leaves the fight. You know, Han's gone, and Chewie, maybe he just bails out. Maybe not. Han Solo is his best friend. Hey, maybe he's in it to win it. Maybe he goes down with the Millennium Falcon and crashes and burns. Maybe Lando gets introduced in the next movie and he takes over the Falcon. Now, stick with me with this for a second. Lando Calrissian, I'm hoping we see him. I really do. And a lot of people are like, oh man, well, Finn can't be Lando's kid because the universe is too big for that. And blah, blah, blah. Shut up. If we find out Finn is a Calrissian, we're all going to be stoked. You're going to be stoked. You're nitpicking if you think that, oh, what, there's only one black man in the universe? Or maybe he's a descendant of Samuel L. Jackson's character. Oh, great, the only other black person in the universe. Just shut up. Shut up. And actually, I think Lando Calrissian would be Finn's grandfather. Because Lando didn't say he was fatherless in Empire Strikes Back. For all we know, he had 8 kids. For all we know, one of his kids could have been 16, 17, 18 years old. So 30 years later, it's very possible. Very possible. And I actually think it's probable that Finn's grandpa will be Lando. And then we see Lando die and we get emotionally involved with Finn because of that. And I really hope C-3PO dies. I really do. It has come time. And the actor who plays him, Anthony Daniels, he's made some comments. He is, people don't like him as much as they used to. He's made negative comments. And I don't care for him as a person, as an actor, or as a robot. He's useless. There's no point in him being there. If they would have given him anything to do in that control room for this movie, besides standing there and saying, "Thank the Maker." Anyway, he needs to get melted down. I mean, not blown up. He needs to get melted down into a volcano, a pit of lava. Him and Jar Jar, just throw them both in. And he's on fire. And just let us care for R2-D2 crying over it. BB-8, by the way, was great. BB-8 and R2-D2, that relationship is going to go so much further. C-3PO talking to R2-D2, that's what made it. That was what made it great. It's the same thing with Han and Chewie. You don't understand what R2's saying, and then C-3PO pretty much tells you by reacting to it. And we got a lot of that with Han and Chewie. And every time it's funny, and every time it's great. And now we can get it with Daisy Ridley's character Rey and Chewie because she understands Wookiee. And, of course, if BB-8 and R2-D2 would be talking back and forth to each other, somebody would have to be telling us what they say. So maybe they could make C-3PO a little more important by having BB-8 and R2-D2 argue back and forth and C-3PO telling us what they're saying by yelling at both of them or something. But my hopes is that he gets melted. And anyway, I think that just about wraps up my spoilers review. It's not all that great. I wrote some things down. My main thing is if you saw the trailers, then you have to know going in it that this is a homage of Star Wars A New Hope, but it's really just an adventure going on these separate adventures with all these characters and not sitting around talking for 10 hours. And that's what we got. I definitely not disappointed that, if it would have been a flawless movie, I still would have given it a 9 out of 10 because it was the Star Killer base. Now we kill multiple planets instead of one, and we draw our power from the sun. And it's just poorly thought out. That was poorly thought out. Where they're going with the story, it remains to be seen if the rest of it was poorly thought out, because everything else was great. the action, the adventure, the CGI. There was a CGI scene in The Force Awakens with the three creatures that Han Solo and Chewbacca were transporting. And that, to me, you could have had a really cool prosthetic creature, practical effects creature, kind of maybe like an homage to the abominable snowman that they had in Empire Strikes Back or something. Just with better technology now, you could have had a different kind of creature than the CGI fest that was that entire scene. It completely took me out of the movie. I was happy that Han Solo was in the scene and we were learning more about the new characters. Finn and Rey were there. And there was, that was a CGI based scene going in it. They knew it was going to be CGI. It was filmed that way to add CGI later, and it didn't need to be. It didn't need to be. Practical effects would have made it a lot better. I think it could have had a more of an alien feel to it if there would have been a lurking creature or creatures. But that thing, Minox. I think they were called Minox. Yeah, that was the reason why it didn't get a 10 out of 10 as well. But everything else, the movie-going experience, second to none this year. Second to none. I think the greatest part about the movie was seeing the Millennium Falcon for the first time, and the way they set that up was awesome. The acting was incredible, except for Carrie Fisher. And the setup for the new Star Wars universe is very bright. Can't wait. Rian Johnson's directing the next one, and Rian Johnson does not play things safe like J.J. Abrams did or Colin Trevorrow will. Rian Johnson is the right guy to bring a bunch of WTFs to Episode 8, and can't wait. Can't wait. A great movie-going experience. I plan on going to the theater and seeing it again, and I don't make the kind of money or get free passes, so I'll have to pay my $10 to go see it again. I'll probably go see it in 3D because I saw it in 2D the first time, and if I get a chance to go see it in IMAX, I will go see it in IMAX. It's going to be in IMAX for a month, so there will be an opportunity to go see it where it's not so crowded, and it'll be my first IMAX experience. I thought, man, maybe I should wait and go see it in IMAX. And then I saw it, and I'm like, no, this is great because now I can actually watch all of the visual effects and absorb the entire universe instead of having to pay particular attention to every word and detail because I've done that already. I came out with flying colors, 8 out of 10. I am not a Padawan anymore. I am a Jedi when it comes to The Force Awakens. I give it a rousing thumbs up. I expect you to do the same. Enjoy the movie. I hope you enjoyed this spoiler review. If you agreed with anything I said, if there's anything you'd like to see in the next movie, if there's anything you think I was completely wrong on, please leave it in the comments below. I would enjoy reading the comments. I will answer back to all of them because I only have like 50 people watching anything I ever do. This is one of the only things I've ever done. But I got a great microphone. I have a great studio here, minus the video. And I enjoy doing these. I will start doing a lot more of these because I have a lot of stuff to complain about. And I have a lot of stuff that I enjoy. And I'm hoping to sharing it with you. This is unedited. I'm not going back and editing anything. I'm leaving all my slurps and slurs and pauses and mistakes in this because I'm just rushing this to get it out. And tag it with Star Wars, and I'm sure 1,000 people end up looking at it or listening to it. I'm sure I'll lose half of them before they get this far. This thing is going on 50 minutes. So anyway, DJ Beaver here, going to be signing off. Da-dum.